Hey guys, Shane here, OzFlight Simmer. Welcome to another episode of Full Flight. Now, if you haven't seen one of these before, this is where I take a viewer's suggestion of a flight they would like to see and reenact it to the best that I can. So please stick around as we are in the Boeing 767 for Japan Airways. We are in Guam International Airport and we're going to take a flight for about 3 hours all the way over to Narita, Japan International Airport. This will be my first time I've flown a 767 in X-plane in Japan, so really looking forward to it. And in the making of this video, it was a bit of a strange event, but I'll tell you that story as we fly along all the way to Japan. But we've been saying that the weather is terrible outside, so let's get into the cockpit and get the aircraft alive and let's go flying. And welcome to the cockpit of the 767. You may think this looks familiar if you watched last week's video. That's because the 767 is very similar to the 757. So I've pretty much so far just turned on the position light, turned the battery to auto, and also turned on the emergency light. So the first thing we're going to do is align the IRSs. I've got it set in the settings for it to basically go really quick to align, or else we would be waiting approximately 7 minutes, and I don't think you guys want to wait that long because my small talk's not that good. But anyways, that will quickly count down, so I think we'll jump back down away from the overhead and we'll program the FMC the lazy way. So our 3 IRSs are all aligned like little ducks in a pond, so it's time to get the FMC out and program the flight today. So the first thing we need to do is put in the position of the airport so we can get a reading of our GPS position. So if you can't align it, you're going to end up on the moon. So we'll just post that in there. The next part is we want to put in our origin, which is our departure airport, which is PGUM. You can just post it up because you've already got it in the scratch panel below. And also our destination, which is RJAA for Narita International Airport. And because we are Japanese Airlines, we're going to put our flight number in today, which is JL8942. Punch it in there. So we'll activate the route. So the next part I like to do is put in the flight plan. So I'm going to go to departures and arrival, and obviously departures, we're going to put in our departure details. We're using runway 06 left, that's the favourable runway. There is no SID for this airport. And what I normally do is I'll just put the runway where I'm landing at the arrival airport, because I like to do the star and arrival for that later on in the air. That way I can get an accurate weather report. So I usually just put in 16 left or 16 right, and I'll leave it from there. Then I'll jump back into the legs page and I'll get my flight planner out. That's usually on the screen next to me, and I'll start entering all the wave points in here. So I'm going to do a very short version and pretty much go direct on most of these, and it will make the time a little bit quicker as I'm putting it into the FMC. As you watch me put in the wave points, I'll give you a little bit of a hint of all the drama I had filming this video, as it took about 16 hours of flying to film this video for about 2.5 hour 3.5 hour flight. So you see in the first flight where I filmed half of the footage for this flight, but it took me 4 takes, and as we go along today I'll tell you about all the takes that we had. So I'm pretty sure this should be one of the last waypoints we're going to put in, which is Binks. So we'll pop that in there. We're going to make sure we don't have any discontinuities, so we'll align 16L just straight under Binks. And what I like to do is just move the FMC to steps mode, so I can quickly have a look and make sure we're not doing any weird sort of looking at the flight plans. So just watching what's happening. Looking good so far. Obviously the flight plan will change as I'm mid-flight when I put in our arrivals details. But before I load the preferences, I better load some fuel and passengers. And actually, normally I do this before I'm playing around with the FMC, but I got a bit excited today. So we're going to bring up the iPad for the flight factor. We're going to have 200 passengers, so you just type that in, and then you put your fuel in. So my flight planner says I need 30,000. We hit optimize, and it'll put the weight where it needs to be, and then we can load the aircraft. Now it's saying that I don't have any passenger buses out there to bring passengers. So we're just going to do that again. I don't have the stairs. As you can see, I'm a little bit confused between JAA Design's ground handling, because sometimes it interacts with the iPad and sometimes it doesn't. So, and as you can see, the fuel of the aircraft is loading in. Obviously not in real time, that's a speed up time. I've got that set to do that. But anyways, we will keep getting the aircraft getting filled up. It won't take long, and then we can put our preferences in. So once that gets to 30,000 pounds, there we go, we're all loaded up. We are good to hit our preference page. We'll pop in our 0 fuel weight by hitting in 0 fuel weight. Our reserves, I'm lazy, I just put in 1. Always, pretty much for every flight. 38,000 feet is our cruise altitude, and our cost index is 10. We want to run fairly lean. Flaps, we're going to use flaps 5, and that just leaves us to our frost details and our VR speed. So the FMC in the 767 and the 757 is a lot more basic than what I find with, say, the PMDG for prepared 737 and whatnot. So first thing we're going to do is going to put heading to 60, because we're going off runway 6 left. We're going to leave our transition altitude to 10,000. We're going to put our VORs to auto and our flight directors on for the left and right, and put our LNAV and VNAV. Now if your LNAV and VNAV don't come up properly, it means you haven't configured your FMC correctly. So we're going to put the first display down so we can see our engines, put our first couple of fuel pumps on and the white light, and we're going to start the APU so we can get this 767 on its own power and not relying on our friends from the airport. So usually while I wait for the APU to start off, I'll actually get all the air conditioning heats set to auto in preparation for the APU to come on, and just pretty much have a look at my overhead that everything is in the right position. The APU should be halfway there, so I'm going to go back to the iPad and clean up the ground handling. So we're going to get rid of the passenger bus stairs, the fuel truck. I'll leave the chocks on for now, but I'll have to flick it over to ground handling, because ground handling for JAA Design is doing the GPU and all this other stuff. So this is why it gets a little bit confusing when you're running these two things, but I'll work it out. I've only picked up JAA Design ground handling couple of days ago, so we've just got the chocks and the GPU set at the moment. We'll get rid of that because the APU is fired up and the 7.6 is starting to come to life. So we're going to switch some more stuff on. We'll go for the yaw dampeners first, the window heats, and we'll go over to our trim air and our rec air and our packs. We'll switch all those on. We'll only switch one pack for now. Bleeds. And just one pack there, as you can hear the air going. So our landing altitude for the departure airport is 200. So we'll get that right. So we're going to start turning our hydros on, and our electrics will turn to auto. Normally you don't have to do that in 757, just hit the two electric switches. So now we're going to turn off the GPU, so we don't need that anymore. We'll go straight over to our iPad and we will get rid of the GPU. So I've got rid of the chocks, and then I've gone, oh, that's right, ground handling. We'll have to find that and switch that off there. So the aircraft is totally independent, and it's time to plan our pushback. So we'll just dial up better pushback and tell them that we want to start pushing I've already done the
ground and
pushback
cockpit.
plan,
Tow is driving up.
and we'll wait for the tow to pull up. It's always interesting to see what type of tow you're going to get. We've got the traditional white one. So I just skipped a little bit ahead of time while I waited for the tow to connect. I've just put all the pumps on in preparation for engine start in the meantime.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
We are ready to rock and roll. Interesting thing about the 767, if you want to compare it to the last flight, is that it takes a long time for the engines to switch on. So we'll get it up to about usually between 20 and 24. Then I'll introduce the fuel, and then for the N1 to start moving, it takes a long time. Different than the 757, that's pretty much hot starting. It looks like it's hot starting all the time from flight factor. Just take one quick look at the iPad, make sure I've got everything I need to do. Yep. I won't bother doing an announcement just yet. Got a funny feeling I'm missing something. But the first engine is starting to turn on. Might as well just turn those on now. There we go, starting to come alive. Better pushback's working today, it's not spinning me in circles. Had a bit of a problem with that lately, but hey, 99% of the time it works, and it is for free. So I can't complain with that whatsoever. As you can see, it's grey and cloudy in Guam today. I'm hoping we'll get some great views once we get out of the cloud cover. Should be a good flight, looking forward to it. So we got a good start on engine number 1. We're going to put the starter over to number 2 and turn that to ground, and we'll start that one. And just waiting to get between 20 and 24, and we'll pop the fueling there. Better pushback should be just about finished.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake.
Parking brake on.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
We've just got to wait for a better pushback to do its thing and get out of the road, and hopefully they've taken the pins out, or else it will be a short flight. And the engine is starting to come alive now. Like I said, they take a while to spool up.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time, and have a safe flight.
There we go. Starting to come alive now. We're ready for getting ready for taxi. Just quickly jump to the overheads and turn the engine generators on. And turn the right pack on, which means that means we can turn the APU off. So get rid of that switch down, and we are ready for taxi. So a nose light is on, and we are good to go. So parking brake is released. We're going to do a bit of a safety demonstration. Let me know in the comments below, because I'm undecided when I do the safety demonstrations of the PA to actually keep them in these videos or not. It means I need to talk over them. So I do apologise. It's a bit of a little bit of a stretch for a taxi, but that's okay. I did a couple of panning shots there anyway, just to mix it up a little bit. But like I mentioned before, this was a 16-hour, or between 12 and 16 hours of flight time for about a 3-hour flight. So this footage, this taxi and the takeoff was the first flight, and then about 2 hours in, the sim decided to crash on me, and I've got, oh, that's okay, we'll just start it again. It was a nice takeoff, and that I enjoy doing the whole thing. So got up the next day, slept in a little bit, but I thought I still had enough time before I had to go out in the afternoon to do the flight. As I got to the top of descent, I ran out of time, so I thought, oh, I'll save the situation. I haven't done that with X-Plane, it should work, and what do you know, it didn't work at all. The flight didn't save panel state, so that was 2 flights.
Place it firmly over your advises you to remove it in the event of an emergency. Slip it over your head, pass the straps around your waist, and adjust at the front. To inflate the vest, pull firmly. The following
and I'll come back to that story once we've taken off and go through what happened next. But thank you very much so far for the comments and feedbacks. As some of these videos are going to be quite long, some people commented they want the video shorter, other people said put some timestamps in there. So the format of these videos are full flight, so they're going to be long, and they are going to be edited in a very raw format, or else you wouldn't see them. I wouldn't be able to do them. So I'm going to keep doing that, but I will put in timestamps. So if you want to skip, you know, the pre-flight and go straight to the taxi, you go straight to the takeoff. You guys, I'll leave it up to you. You can choose what you want to watch. But the taxi is nearly to its end. I apologise it's taking so long. Tried a bit of a speed demon down, but we'll just pop the flaps down, put the auto throttle on, put the TCAS on, lights on, and then we should be good to go. It's a bit of a narrow turn here, so we'll make sure we get our brakes correctly. Bit different than the 757. You can really feel the suspension on the front nose, but you don't really feel that being such a larger aircraft as the 76 is. So flaps going down to stage 5. I could have done that on the taxi and saved you all a couple of minutes, but you know, I'm not a smart guy, or else I'd probably be doing this for real life. So nose light is on, and our landing lights are on. Strobe is on, making sure everything in the overhead is looking overhead. We turn our auto brakes to RTO, auto throttle on, put the TCAS on so everybody knows where we're at, and we're going to release brakes and roll straight out to runway 6. We are on a VATSIM today. No aircraft around, but normally flying in Japan there's always seems to be a bit of traffic. I found out doing a few flights into Japan for this flight anyway. So within all saying that, I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. Please enjoy the takeoff and the sounds as we hit Toga and continue on our way. Wheels are up. Took a little bit to get some speed just after we took off, so that's why I sort of kept the pitch down a little bit, but now I've got quite a lot of speed, so flaps going up as well, and we're making our turn to then our way to Narita. I'll pop the autopilot on and she'll dip down, but the 767 you don't need to pull back much on the yoke for it to take off, so long as you've got your trim correctly, which I've got set up to do automatic for me, so that makes it a lot easier. There we go, so we can see what we're doing. V speed's just over 4,000, so we're steaming like a rocket. Who needs Virgin Galactic when you've got Flight Simmer in the 7.6? We're going to be cruising most of the flight about 38,000 feet. Towards the end of it we'll do a bit of a step change to 42. It's quite a bit of a step change, but should be fine. So just passing 10,000 feet, we'll turn the lights off now, and the aircraft's going to duck down a little bit so we can increase our speed. So I think we might jump to a wing view in the meantime. So the seatbelt sign is off. You guys are right to move around the cabin. We'll be serving drinks shortly, so not really much is going to happen at the moment while we'll keep ascending up to our cruise altitude, firstly at 38,000 feet. So I'll come back to you once we're a little bit closer to our cruise altitude. So we're just about to pass through to our cruising altitude of 38,000 feet. We're going to let the passengers know that we're leveling off and it's time for cruising. Pretty much like all airliners, there's not really much to do at this time of the flight, except for monitoring your fuel usage and doing your checks. So I'm going to do the same. If I'm not using enough fuel, I'm going to use a little bit more and we'll go a little bit quicker. But I'll come back to you in an hour or two, and we'll start planning our approach into Narita. I hear the weather's going to be pretty foul, so we're looking forward to that. Should be a pretty exciting approach. Welcome back to the cockpit. I'm hoping you've been able to enjoy the fantastic food on board, and been able to find a movie on a very tiny screen you could watch during the flight. So fuel is looking good. Generally, I don't know if this is real life procedure, but I like to do my approach. Anything in the flight over an hour and a half, I like to do my approach about midway through the flight, just because then the weather's updated. So I use my weather to check my METAR and get the favourable runways for active sky, even though I'm using X-plane. And I use to work out my flight plans Flight Sim Commander 9 by Aerosoft. So it's old school stuff, but you can still update the ACAS, and it does the job for me. So the favourable runways are the 16. So I believe we're going to be using 16 right, and we're going to come around the back of the airport on a German approach in. So I just picked German, and we're going to be doing an ILS approach in, of course, because the weather is not too good. And we'll pick our transition as well, and we'll hit execute, and then we'll jump into steps mode and have a look at the approaching to make sure we've got everything right, and check to see if we've got any discontinuities, and we'll need to get rid of those. But like I mentioned before, so the story of today was, I spoke about how this was pretty much a 12 to 16 hour flight for recording time. So I think the footage that you're seeing now, this was the third flight over, because the first one, the sim crashed. The second one, I ran out of time to actually do the flight, and so this was the third one. And what happened on this flight was, once probably about 10-20 nautical miles away from top of descent, after I programmed the approach, I just had to leave the sim for a second. And I have wireless headsets, and what happens is, if you every now and then the wireless headset will basically give you a warning, say it's going to shut off power. So I was away at the desk at that time, and it did that. And then what happens is, after probably about 30 seconds, it shuts off. So, and then it will revert back to the speakers, just the speakers that I've got set up on my desk, and you hear the da-dum. So that happened. But what happens is that then X-plane, you don't have any sound. And I think this happens with prepared as well. Even if I turn the wireless headphones off, it really annoys me. So what I had to do then is basically do the flight again after that, because if you save the situation, it doesn't save the panel state. And I had no sound, so I couldn't record, or else I'd have to record the flight and no engine noises, so I didn't want to do that. So that was flight number 3. So when we come back after this and we start our descent, this will be flight number 4. So it was a bit of a mission, but I wasn't going to give up. I wanted to get this episode out for you guys this week. Welcome back. So we're just about to hit top of descent. So again, the fuel is going to be marginal, so we're sitting at 4.2, so that'll make things quite interesting. So well, I think we'll be okay. Getting some cloud build up. So the footage you saw before, that was when I was doing the step climb. I just showed you the outside of the aircraft climbing. Let's do another 5 minutes while I was doing the step climb or step change. There we go, we've hit top of descent, and pretty much going to descend down to 20,000 feet for the next waypoint, and that's when it should start getting interesting then. But I will skip ahead of time, because it's going to be a pretty straightforward descent to start off with. So now it's starting to get exciting. I saw a land out the left window before, so we've made land, and we're just gone under 20, or about to go under 20,000 feet. So it's going to get quite exciting now as we approach into Narita. So this flight wasn't really requested by a viewer as in what route I was going to take for the full flight. I didn't have many comments by this stage when I started out this video, but someone did ask to do a 7.6 flight, so I decided to do that, and I just picked a route that I thought was interesting. But we've got quite a few suggestions in there, which is really cool, so I'm going to take all those on board. We'll probably make the next video be a prepared base video for the next full flights, and yeah, who knows, we'll see what happens after that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to remind you that use of all electronic devices during descent and landing is prohibited, as it may interfere with the navigational equipment. Thank you.
So just pop the seatbelt sign on for the descent. Every time I do it, I just have this picture if I'm on a commercial flight when you're descending and the seatbelt sign goes on for descent. There's always one or two people that then get up and race to go to the toilet. So sometimes they make it, sometimes the air hostess, you know, will stop them on their tracks, but you're always bound to see one or two of them. So I'm pretty much just keeping my eye on the FMC, making sure that we are staying on the correct speed and keeping an eye on the altitude that we need to do by the next waypoint. But the VNAV and the NNAV for the 7.6 is pretty good. It will let you know when you need to put drag out. The 7.6 doesn't need much drag, not like the 757, which is pretty slippery. You need to apply a lot of drag with that. So but that's pretty much all I'm doing. The sun is starting to dip down as we're getting through the clouds. And if you have a quick cheeky look at the clock when it comes back in frame, you'll see that this flight's only been going for an hour. So this is the fourth flight I did for the episode. So I just adjusted the landing altitude to 200. I forgot to change that earlier before. So just having a sneaky look out the window, see if I can find the airport, because we've pretty much just got to fly past it and then do a 180 and come back in. But let's see if we can get some lights happening. So just why I've been doing this voiceover, I've just learnt that Prepared 4.3 has come out, so I'm excited to check that out. It's got a lot of feature updates that I'm excited about, such as the new UI, and then the texturing that they've done for the virtual cockpits, which will be great for VR, and a couple of other things. And they've included a new aircraft, which is cool. I'm not sure if I would fly that sort of stuff. I'm not really into large military aircraft, but yeah, so good to see that Prepared are working on their product. It's actually really great to see competition driving the sim platforms. You know, we've been spoilt in 2018, and you know, at the end of 2017 with X-Plane and Prepared, the new version. So flight simming future is looking very bright. So I just popped on the lights just before we pass through 10,000. Normally I wait, you know, just before, but you know, we don't have much to do as we're descending in, so just keeping an eye out for twins. And we have to set our altitude, just set for 3,000. So I've had a look at the map. So if anybody wants to know, I also use a Navigraph for all my charts, and I like using Navigraph because you know, just things in there, it sort of suits me. And then I like the sim link part. A lot of people don't like that, but I like the sim link part for to help me when I'm taxiing for airports I haven't been to. So I use that for all my charts as well. I think it's a great product as well. So at this stage, just notice that ATC is just turned on at Narita, and I'm going to disconnect because this is the 4th flight I've done in it. It's it's been a lot of hours, and I just didn't really feel like I wanted to talk to ATC, so I thought, oh, I'll just jump off. For now, but you'll see flights coming up and we'll be doing some ATC, and I'll look for routes so I know there will be some ATC on for you guys. But just this being the 4th attempt, and I knew the weather's going to get bad, I just, you know, I didn't factor that in, so I didn't want to come in with ATC. So we're just about to hit our top of the clouds there, so it's going to get very interesting shortly. So I think let's have a look at the clouds in the wing view as we're just skimming over the top of it. So it looks like the sim weather has kicked in since we jumped off that sim. The weather's changed, so it's starting to look quite gloomy, and I can see some black clouds out there. So this should make things interesting. Just passing 6,000 feet there, and I had to use a little bit of air brake, so we've taken that off there. And can't really see much. I can see little bits of the ground, but not too much. So our last waypoint is Conan. So once we've got Conan, we should be pretty much lined up, and I'll be switching on over to approach mode. So I've already got the ILS dialed in, and also our course. I forgot to film that part, so I do apologise, but we'll do that in another 7.6 video. So there we go. You can just see that the we started picking up the VOR signals of the airport, but geez, some of these clouds are starting to look very interesting. I'm not confident about what we're about to go through up here, but I'm also not confident with our speed for this altitude, so I'm going to take that over and reduce it down to 170. We're going to control this manually, so I'm going to smash out, oh, we won't do that much, but I'll smash out the air brake to slow us down quite a fair bit. But look at that grey cloud, and this is all default weather for my P3D friends who don't use X-Plane. One of the cool things is that the cloud effects, look at that, and also the weather, default weather engine in X-Plane is pretty good. But looking forward to seeing some of the third-party products pop in. But that, look at that, very immersive. We'll reduce our air brakes a little bit. We're pretty much down to 170, and I'll just put in my first notch of flaps there. We'll go to flaps 5 as we're starting to slow down, and we're going to make our turn now to our runway 6 right, and hopefully we've done our job correctly, and once we get through these clouds we should be able to see the runway in sight. So just going to slow it down to 165, put some more air brakes out. Can't really see much, so it's exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking because because at this point in time I'm like, oh, hopefully I don't, you know, mess this approach up and we have to do this flight for the 5th time. There we go. Just got a glimpse of the puppies. Absolutely excellent. So I'm going to put the air brake all the way back, and we're at 165. Just putting the flaps to flaps 10. Slowing the aircraft down a little bit more. We'll just hit our approach, and we should watch the 7.6 autopilot take over. And then I'll take control of the aircraft about 1,000 feet. So just popping through the bottom of the clouds. Look at that. What a view. You know, that gets you excited about flight sim. And we should pitch to our right shortly. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So we've just got about 2,000 feet, and then we'll be at touchdown. I'm going to take over about 1,000 feet, but everything's lined up, and the 7.6 is doing what she should be doing. And because I'm a great pilot, I'm going to adjust the Q&H just as we're approaching into runway 6 right, so don't mind me, but we better get it right before we touch down. So please enjoy the landing. I'm going to go quiet in the cockpit, and I'll talk to you after we've got wheels down.
$1,000.
Glide slow. Glide slow.
500.
Terrain. Glide slow. Glide slow. Terrain, terrain.
Minimums. $100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
There we go, touchdown. Couple of mistakes. I forgot to put the auto brakes on, and I pulled back on the yoke as I first touched down too much, and we did a little bit of a jump. But all in all, any landing you can do and walk away from is a great landing. So we're going to pull off the runway just up here. I think it's a good time to do a replay of the landing, and then we'll continue our taxi to the gate. There we go. So landings always look that just a little bit better on the replay. So just cleaning out the aircraft. So turn our strobes on, turn the turn the strobes off, turn the landing lights on, put the nose wheel light on, and we just started the APU. So pretty much got to go all the way down here and hang a left. So we'll turn the TCAS off. So that was an interesting flight, even though I had a bit of trouble recording the video. I really enjoyed the flight, and the approach was pretty cool as well. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you got to watch the whole thing, thumbs up to you, and I really appreciate it. So it's going to be another one of these that will come out next week. It will probably be a prepared video. Please leave comments below, because I'm having a look at all the comments and suggestions for the next flights, and I do my best to reply to every single one of them as well. But this series is only going to work if you guys put in suggestions of what aircraft, what simulator, what route, what airport. You can even go and, if you want to put gates in there, if you want to put in stars in there, put it in there, as much detail as you can, and I'll try to do the routes for you. So I think I need to put the brakes on here and make a right hand turn. Also, I'll leave a link in the description below. We've just started up a Discord, so in there you can come and say g'day and hello, and see what we're up to, and do a lot of updates in there and things that I'm looking at within the flight sim community. I'll post my thoughts in there. So we've had that up for a week now, so welcome everybody that's popped in and said hello so far, and looking forward to seeing more of you around. So I'm hoping I'm going to have better luck. Actually, I can't remember where I was meant to park, but I'm going to park next to this Condor, just up here, because I love the livery of the Condor aircraft for some reason. So we have another test drive video as usual out either Saturday or Sunday. So by the time you see this, I'll be already working on it. I'm debating on, am I doing a prepared base product or a X-plane product. So bearing in mind the last two videos, including this one, have been X-plane. So we'll see how we go. I love testing out new products. So we can see if we can line up here. I'm not going to show you the whole shutdown today, because it's been quite a long video already. So pretty much running on fumes, 1,500 pounds there. There wasn't much left, probably not even enough to do a go around. So just shutting engines 1 and 2 down, so turning the right pack off there, and the APU, switching over to APU power. So there we go, 1 and 2. And then we're going to unload the passengers. So return chocks, stairs, passenger buses, and we'll open up the door and we'll start unloading. Say goodbye, and then we'll start unloading.
This is the captain speaking. I hope you've enjoyed your flight on this aircraft and hope to see you again.
And that was this week's full flight video from Guam International Airport all the way over to Narita International Airport in the Flight Factor 767 Japan Airlines. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and say hello in the comments. If you have any suggestions to improve this new series, or if you'd like to suggest a flight, please pop it in the comments below. But again, thank you very much for watching. My name is Shane, Oz Flight Simmer. Have an awesome day. Cheers. Goodbye.